Hello and welcome to Week 7's presentation on exploration. Our analysts will be on the game Skyrim and will be presented by Stefan, Shawshank and James. In Skyrim, exploration is necessary in order to advance in the game. It is the very foundation of the game, as nothing can be accomplished without exploring Skyrim. Skyrim is an open world role-playing game, where the player creates an avatar and is encouraged to find weapons, cast spells, defeat enemies, and explore everything that the mechanics and the world of Skyrim has to offer. Exploration in Skyrim is reflected in its mechanics on what a player must do to overcome obstructions such as locked doors and enemies. Its dynamics, which focus on how the player explores, whether they choose to find items or find other ways to overcome an obstacle. And finally through its aesthetics, which reflect on why the player explores the world of Skyrim, such as its visual, audio, and interactive appeal. Throughout this video, each of us will explain how Skyrim effectively uses exploration through its mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics, by using different stages of Skyrim as examples. I will now pass it over to Stefan to explain how the mechanics affect exploration in Skyrim.
Mechanics are built in throughout Skyrim to ensure the player is encouraged and rewarded for their efforts of exploration. The mechanics built around discovery are greatly enforced on the player, as discovering caves, ruins, and even entire cities pushes them forward with rewards of experience, quests, and the ability to fast travel to the location. Experience is what the player strives for, both as knowledge and their spendable in-game experience points. When the player walks or rides to a location by foot, they are rewarded for their time wandering the realm with a reasonable amount of experience, depending on the location. Experience is what the player wants and needs to move forward, and as the discovery of the location gives the player experience, they are pushed more to explore the world of Tamriel. Discovering new areas can also reward the player with the option to advance the stories of the realm, also known as side quests. These side quests can please the player with stronger items, more experience, or even new undiscovered locations. These are all things that the average player wants in a game such as Skyrim, and Bethesda, makers of Skyrim, know this. The players get taught early on that completing quests gives them large amounts of XP and possibly a strong item or ability. So, the idea of more quests excites their curiosity for more XP and potential, and that curiosity turns into exploration for new locations and quests. When a new location is discovered, players are given their XP along with that location permanently being on their map, and a little fast travel button being available. Alternatively, you can use a carriage to transport you to major locations as well, but this costs some gold. The idea of fast travelling has been a core mechanic in nearly all Elder Scrolls games, including Skyrim, and allows a player to almost teleport to various locations on the map, divided by a loading screen. Allowing a player to teleport to previously discovered places does less rewarding, but more preserving to their efforts of discovery. In this way, it does encourage exploration to give the player easier options to scuttle around the map, and focus more on other matters such as continuing quests. The mechanic saves the player time of travel, while still making the task of travelling relevant.
The Elder Scrolls Skyrim is a very well designed game that utilizes its aesthetic components to its full scope. There's a lot of content and intrinsic detail involving a large organic sandbox for players to experience and explore, which further expands the game's open fantasy world. Right from the introductory sequence of the game, the opening scene invokes various feelings and sensations as the character awaits his execution. At this point, these feelings primarily consist of fear, anxiousness, and a further sense of hostility as the player explores the game's narrative. In terms of the narrative structure itself, the character is initially depicted as a prisoner without any recollection of their past. but soon discovers that they stem from a long-lost line of dragon slayers, destined to save the world. Apart from exploration through narrative, there are other aesthetic elements that make Skyrim a brilliant game, for shaping a player's sensation and experiential curve. The dark, ominous music helps emphasize certain situations of mystery and wonder, thus allowing a drive to explore a certain hidden location. Another successful aesthetic feature of Skyrim is the game's character creation module, and how it logically ties in with the story of the game. Just before the character begins to explore their backstory, they're introduced to a character creation screen. This is a great aesthetic element as it allows the player to self-express themselves in a creative manner, perhaps even creating a character that resembles their own avatar. The user interface within this module is very well designed, and also shows the beautiful visual graphics and customization the game has to offer. Players can manipulate specific attributes from hair color to even setting the character's brow height from a simple bar slider that can change and update facial structures on the fly.
Skyrim presents plenty of options to the player in how they go about overcoming a certain problem or obstacle, and this is reflected in the way the player chooses to explore different areas. An example of this is in the area called the Rapway Vault, where the player is presented with a maze of corridors. These corridors give the player options in how they approach the level. This brings a risk and reward factor into the game, where the player can explore a certain path with the risk of running into an enemy or a locked door. However, the player is pushed to explore in order to find new items that can help them in advancing the game. The mechanics of the game, such as battle mechanics and the lockpicking mechanics, leads the player to make a dynamic decision. This decision could be to attempt to lockpick a door in order to get a new item or get into a new area, but this runs the risk of breaking the lockpick. On the other hand, a player may wish to advance by brute forcing the enemy, but this could lead to the ultimate risk of death, where the player must redo the stage. There is also another option presented to the player, and that is to run. By running, the player misses out on chances to get items or experience from killing enemies. However, it allows the player to avoid conflicts and advance through the game faster. Due to its maze-like design, the risk of running in the Rapway Vault is that the player may turn into a dead-end corridor and possibly get trapped by an enemy which is chasing them. A way to overcome this problem is through exploration. Exploring allows for the player to learn possible ways of dealing with the situation. If a player was to explore the Rapway Vault, they would be able to create a mental map of corridors and areas. This would allow them to advance through the level by finding areas that they haven't explored, which could create risk, but returning to areas that they have explored, which could create safe havens from enemies. In summary, we can see how Skyrim presents exploration to the player. Exploration in Skyrim has been shown to be necessary in order for the player to advance through the game. This presentation has shown Skyrim's use of exploration, which is reflected in the mechanics that set the rules on how the player explores, the dynamics that give the player options on how to play, and aesthetics, which shows what a player can see, hear, and interact with. We have seen in this presentation how the player is able to explore the mechanics of the game, and how they have been implemented into how the player plays the game. We have also seen how different aspects of Skyrim's narrative, sound, and art affect how the player explores as well. Throughout this video, we have explained using different stages of Skyrim and how it effectively uses exploration through its mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Why are we stopping?
Why do you think? End of the line.